In this video, we're going to look at how you can use Tabnine to perform a remote codebase search. And by that we mean have Tabnine generate code suggestions that are based on patterns that it sees in remote repos. So Git repos, Perforce repos, and so on. Now, the reason why you might want to do this, perhaps your team has certain ways of solving software problems, or maybe your organization has tried and trusted patterns. So this is about discovering that code, reusing that code, and ultimately saving you time and helping you to create code that's going to be acceptable to your team and to your business. So I'm going to show you how to do this through an example. So let's say we have an API and there's an endpoint that I want to make a call to, which is this payments endpoint. So of course I can show Tabnine the Swagger doc here. It'll see these parameters. It'll know what is expected to call this API endpoint, but that's not the full picture or the full story. So we have an external repo that we've connected to Tabnine that contains examples from the past of how we've called this API before. And I'm just going to show you the source code within this connected repo. There's one class in here in particular that we want Tabnine to borrow code from when it generates a code suggestion for us. And it's this enterprise payment client class. And down here, there's a crucial piece or a crucial pattern that's needed when calling the API. And that is a number of HTTP headers that need to be passed as part of any call. So this is what we want to see in the code that Tabnine generates. Before we begin, I'll show you how to tell which repos have been connected to Tabnine. Just simply ask the question, which remote repos have been connected? And here you can see in my example, I have one repo that's currently connected to Tabnine, the one that we just looked at. Now, the way that we get Tabnine to perform a remote codebase search is through a simple prompt. And in this example, I've put that prompt into a guideline. Guidelines reside within the .tabnine/guidelines directory structure within the root of your repo in markdown files. And you can see an example of one of these guideline files here. Here I'm simply telling Tabnine to perform a remote codebase search to look for suitable patterns. So you can create a guideline file like this with similar instructions. So with this, with these guidelines or that important guideline in place, let's ask Tabnine to generate new code. And you'll see in the response here, it has used a tool called remote codebase search. And it's through this that it will hopefully have discovered suitable patterns for the code that it's generating. So we're going to skip ahead here to where Tabnine has generated all of our code. And so here we are at the end, and quite a lot of code has been generated here. Let's have a look. So we have a new payment client class. So let's have a look at that. And let's look down through this file, and hopefully it will have that pattern that we were hoping for. And indeed it does. There you can see all of the HTTP headers that we expect to see in that code or that we were hoping to see. So that's an example of how you can tell Tabnine to look to your remote code repositories for any suitable patterns and to use those in the code that it generates for you. Now, I want to share with you a couple more examples of working with remote code bases with the Tabnine agent. So a common use case is to ask Tabnine explicitly to find code on your behalf. So let's say we're interested in this function here called fetch client configuration in our remote repo. Even if we don't know the name of that function, we can turn to Tabnine and we can ask it to find that code for us, and it will perform a semantic search using the words in our prompt. Now, one of the most important words in this prompt is the remote word. Okay, so it'll perform a remote lookup, and here you'll see that it is using a tool called remote codebase search again, and it has pulled back that function that we're interested in. And in the response here, we have all of the code that we saw a moment ago in that remote repo, but also we have examples of how to use this code in our local code base, which is fantastic. Now, if we do know the name of the function that we want to interrogate, we can pass in that entity name in the prompt as well, and this will result in what we call a remote symbol lookup. Now, here I've forgotten to put in the word remote in the prompt, and so Tabnine doesn't know what I'm talking about because I have no such function in my local workspace. So we're going to put in that prompt again, but this time we'll put in that all-important remote keyword. Okay, so now with the word remote in the prompt, you'll see Tabnine will use the remote symbol content tool to do that lookup, and you can see that it's found the function in question and it's provided me with an in-depth description of what it is the function does. So those are a few examples of how to find and to leverage code that exists in remote code repositories using the Tabnine agent, which I hope you find useful.